It's 11:13 Central Africa time, and we're moving into our final hour conversation. This is a book titled The Raping of Mother Gaia. And before we go into the conversation, I just want to put a trigger warning out there for everyone, because the conversation we're about to have has elements of sexual abuse, abuse in various ways as well, physical abandonment. So there's so many emotional, topics that we're going to touch on in this conversation that may or may not be triggering, but just be warned for that. And if you're someone who doesn't want to be triggered by those kinds of conversations, then perhaps this is your time not to engage further. But it is going to be a beautiful conversation nonetheless. We're joined in our studio by Amelia Ratlhankana. She's also known as Dr. Amelia through the African National Healers Association. She is, as the name suggests, an African healer, a shaman, and now an author as well. A recently released book titled The Raping of Mother Gaia is a book where she jots down some of the traumatic life events that she's been through, but also relates them to how humanity treats the earth, which is referred to as Mother Gaia in this book. Dr. Amelia, thank you so much for taking your time to join us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's an emotional roller coaster, this particular book. I mean, just the title itself sounds a little bit triggering because, the word rape is known and associated to be quite a triggering element or, topic or word to speak about. But this is part of your life story. Before we go into that, let's find out about you before, for those who don't know about you, have never, interacted with you before. Who is Dr. Amelia?
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Amelia is me. Let's start there. I am Dr. Amelia. I'm known as Dr. Amelia. However, I'm not a medical doctor. I always want to bring that across. I am an environmental scientist by profession, but a healer by a calling.
And you've got a lot of expertise.
It's a lot. Sometimes I don't even know how to say it or to put it into context.
Sure.
Yes, so I am currently working as a healer. I heal the mind, the body, and the spirit all in one. I am based in Alberton, Raceview, and then I've got two other branches in Kwamhlanga, in Mpumalanga, as well as Teflop in Polokwane.
Very interesting, the methods that you use to heal. Quantum science. That is a new one for me as well, but it's also one of the elements you use: life coaching, herb blends, psychic abilities, and there's a lot more under who you are. And for the most part, people who are healers, especially in the African context, are those who give of themselves to others. But it seems like this book was an opportunity for you to also start unpacking and healing yourself. So let's speak about this book, The Raping of Mother Gaia. When you decided to jot down your life experiences, why did you come to that point in making this decision?
Oh yeah, I've been writing the book for so long, for as long as I finished. No, actually when I was in high school. Before the last event happened, the last event of rape, which happened when I was in matric. So I've been writing and living it. When you write and you get triggered and it takes you back and you go like, maybe I'm not ready for it. But as I started the healing journey, I realized the importance of healing myself as a healer, because I believe wounded healers wound others unintentionally. So this is when in 2022 I decided, it's time that I put this out there to share my story, so that people that are directed to me for healing understands that I'm not healing them because I'm perfect. I am healing them because I walked the path and I understand very well where they come from.
This is a very confrontational title, and I think you did it very intentionally. The Raping of Mother Gaia. Let's talk a little bit about what the book is about. There's many people who go actually through what you go through, who get raped by someone very close to them, and it's very difficult for them to speak. And at times when they even speak, even in the African context, you could be speaking to a family member.
It was when the journey, my spiritual journey unfolds, and I started understanding purpose. the role of soul peoples. And I understood that this is the concept that I always share. I say we choose our parents in spirit. I believe there are other people who share the same view. We choose our parents in spirit. So I believe I chose my father coming from the family line he's coming from, and I chose my mother, which I believe my father is probably coming from a family line of rapists, and my mother is coming from a family line of victims of rape. Therefore, I chose them so that I can come here to break the curse for both family lines. But I mean, you cannot heal a wound you haven't experienced. So for me to be able to say, this is the healer that I am today, and I'm focusing on healing the inner child, I had to experience it from the very same parent that I chose. So this is how I was able to forgive him. Because after doing this ordeal, he didn't last a year, he passed on. So I believe he was
What
done
ordeal in terms of you forgiving?
raping me.
Okay.
Yes, then he passed on, which was when I was angry. I was actually angry that I never got to confront him.
How old were you then when he died?
I was 5, 10 or 16.
Sure.
But I was angry. Nobody knew. When they told us that my father died, when everybody else was crying, they were surprised why I'm not crying. I was angry. Like I felt like waking him up and saying,
Like, how could
come and
he?
be
Yeah.
accountable for what you
Yeah.
did. Because I still believe that even if I understand purpose and I can say it was part of my purpose, I believe people just need to be good people. You must just be a good person, just to not allow such thoughts to overcome you. Believe me, there's a lot of people that have been raped by their fathers. They're just unable to come out with it because, number one, being disowned by your very own family. These people that do this to young children, they're usually protected by family structures because in most cases they are breadwinners or they are trusted members of the communities. So nobody would really believe you over saying somebody who, for example, is a priest and is trusted by the entire church community has raped you. You understand? So there's a lot of silence that is happening. Hence, a lot of people are getting broken by it instead of being strengthened by their experiences.
You know, that's very interesting you say that, because if you didn't confront that person who hurt you in the way that they did, then how do you come to that reconciliation? Because they didn't actually deal with what they did. They didn't speak out to say, I'm sorry. And also they didn't have to deal with their crime. So you left with this crime by yourself.
By myself, and I believe this is what attracted me to other rapists.
Okay.
You know, rape is one thing. If you are raped once, there are many chances that you're gonna be raped again and again and again until you heal. Because then it's like rapists can smell you.
And you know what? What you're saying is so true, because even statistically, a lot of people who have, experienced sexual abuse, it happens repeatedly in different ways in their life. So it's not just you, but most people, in fact, who experience sexual abuse experience it in various other ways throughout their lives.
And I believe it's because when it happens, you hold that energy in you. I believe that energy gets to be attached to your chakras, your inner energy centers, and you will somehow emit it through your aura, but it will be picked up by rapists.
Okay, let's take a break, and we'll do that through our business news. We have to really take in a lot. Maybe deal with healing. How do you heal from such a traumatic experience that we are talking about? We're speaking to Amelia, Dr. Amelia. She's written a book titled The Raping of Mother Gaia. And also we'll move to that. What are we doing to the earth as well? Because she is someone who's also an advocate for environmental issues. So we'll chat a little bit about that after our break. It's 11:30 Central African time. Let's find out what's happening in our business news with Tabiso Leho. Hey man, we are speaking about this very difficult subject matter, and we're speaking about rape. Yeah, and off air we were just talking about how we live in a society where, like a rape culture society, it's in South Africa, and most of us pretend that it's not happening, or we don't talk about it. And when you hear the word rape, we put a disclaimer even in this conversation, say, be careful, you have to listen to this, and if you feel like this has something that can trigger you, don't actually listen to the conversation. But these are conversations that we need to have in a society where rape is happening on a daily basis, and we're talking about every hour of the day here in South Africa. We're speaking to the author of Raping of Mother Gaia, and that is Dr. Amelia, who's joining us in studio. Let's talk a little bit about the healing process, because that's one of the biggest challenges. It means you have to forgive. You had to forgive someone who was no longer there, someone who was closer to you, who couldn't even say they're sorry because they died before you could even confront them. You were too young to even confront them. You were too young to even speak to anyone. So you're left alone with this dilemma of healing. Where do you start?
It firstly starts with recognizing when you've got a trigger. There are a lot of people who've been raped, but they can't remember. There are people who doesn't know what happened when they were 4 years, who don't have a memory of it. So, but if ever the term rape comes up and you are triggered, or somebody talks of their rape story and you are triggered, that's where you start to recognize that there's a problem. I always talk about the RAIN technique. I think we talked about it the other time.
Just remind us.
The RAIN technique.
Rain.
RAIN. I say in my healing, I use that technique, which is R for recognizing that once you are triggered, then there is definitely an underlying wound. And then the A is to acknowledge and accept that it did happen. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge. Not only as a victim, I say I'm a victor of rape, not victim, but not only as a victim, but most men are protective of this and they don't even want to go there because they don't know if they've raped or not. Somewhere, somehow in their lives, they forced themselves on somebody. Somebody said no, and they still went for it. So they don't know if they've raped or not. So they cannot really, support somebody saying no to rape because they don't know if they are.
And I think that it's good to speak about the acknowledgement of the victim and the perpetrator, because most of the time the perpetrators themselves feel they can't even acknowledge rape even as a reality. They always find excuses around that.
So it's recognized that you are triggered and definitely there's an underlying wound. A, acknowledge that you do have a problem. It wouldn't trigger you if it wasn't eating you up inside, no matter how far you've buried it. It means it is there and the wound is getting, what is it? It's ripe.
Right.
It's festering.
Yes. And then the I as the investigation. Start with investigating.
That's the hardest part.
It is the hardest part. Because you might discover that you are focused on this trigger and this particular wound that you remember, but you will discover there's many more that you really didn't think much about. And when you investigate, you need to be very realistic to yourself. Have a roll of tissue or a box of tissue, have water, and the best part is that you need to note it down. That is the N in the RAIN. Write down how you feel. Start with writing to the person that did this to you as if you were seeing them, because energetically they can pick up the message, telepathically. So do write the message for them, knowing very well that even if the person is not going to read this piece of paper, but God is reading it, and energetically send the message to them. So this is what you did to me. This is how you made me feel. This is how I feel. Even if you have to swear. This is how I feel about you. And then after that, you need to go into your inner child, which is one of the healing practices that I do, healing of the inner child wounds. You have to go into your own inner child. Remember who you were called as a child, and then address that child. My childhood name is Mamli. I always would say, dear Mamli, my darling, I am so sorry that you carried the pain for us. I am so sorry this person raped you. I'm sorry this person raped you. I'm sorry this person did that to you. And go into details of who did what. And also promise the inner child that you are embarking on a healing journey for you and the inner child. And promise the inner child that you will make sure that nothing like that ever happens to her and you or him. But you must also come back to not acknowledging, but doing a purge. And I always say, when you do this process, make sure that you get something that speaks to your inner child. Like, if you loved ice cream, have ice cream with you. If you loved toffees, have toffees with you. Have something that will connect you
and comfort you.
Yes, and I always say, play after the process, play music that comforted you as a child. Because I believe in, as much as we couldn't speak, music was always playing a role. And then,
these things, they feel very symbolic, the things that you speak about. And some people will be like, writing this thing is not gonna take away
Right.
what happened to me, or writing to this man who's not gonna read anything, is not gonna make a difference in my life. But maybe you're making the situation external, where you have to confront these things internally. Why are these practical things important for your emotional wellness?
Acknowledgement, to bring it home first, because we want to treat it from outside. You need to visit the pain. You need to go there and deal with it from where it is really painful, so that when you come out, you rip out the wound with its roots. You don't just touch the surface, because then you are triggering yourself further. And it doesn't end there. After you have noted down, I always say, go and burn it, right?
Okay.
But when you burn it, do affirmations. These affirmations should be affirmations that declares that you understand that this is not a burden that you want to carry anymore, and you cannot deal with it, you cannot fix it. Therefore, you are giving it to God and the universe to settle it for you. So do affirmations such as, I am letting you go, I am settling the score between you and I, may the universe take care of all of it, may this never happen to anybody coming after me.
Well, as we wrap up, I also want to bring back the connection to this book, your experiences with Mother Earth. As an environmentalist, you named this book quite intentionally, The Raping of Mother Gaia, which is the earth in this particular scenario. How do you think we can stop? I mean, where is the healing of the earth that we continuously violate?
It starts with being accountable as individuals. In the book, I talk about how decision makers are also supposed to be held accountable, because rules, laws and regulations are written, but that is just to tick the box.
Right.
The very same people who are supposed to ensure that these rules and regulations are carried out, the people who are supposed to make sure that everybody who pollutes pays, just like it says in the legislation, the polluter pays, are the ones who are taking a bribe from people who are doing the pollution, or who are damaging the environment. So it starts with them, then it comes back to us as individuals to understand that what I am harming with a simple act of throwing away a paper goes a long way, and it is killing sustainable development. There might not be something as green as the nature we are looking at in the coming future, just because of the simple act that I did out of not caring.
You know, I'm also interested in that process, you know, the person who's being hurt turning into a healer, you know. I'm sure now you're a bright, illuminating individual. You are luminous in your essence. I can just see you when you walked into the room. There's nothing broken in you. There's nothing missing in you. How important is this journey for you to actually share not just your pain, but you say I'm not just a victim, I'm a victor. How important is it to engage and help others in your healing journey as it continues, because it never stops? Healing is a life's journey.
Yes. I believe healers need other healers as well, right? And in actual sense, we are all healers in different aspects. You talking to us every day on radio, you are healing us. Okay, so this is for me to say, the journey that you have walked, check if, this is why the book has got areas whereby you have to take down notes.
Yes.
Check how is it directly linked to your purpose, so that you do it intentionally. So that we start with understanding that it happened, I can't change it. Moving forward, it can also only be through healing. And as you heal to implement your purpose, so that you don't have to come back to earth again to do the same thing.
Fantastic.
Sure. Well, that's a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for your time and helping us unpack this really emotional book. Where can we go? Where can we find The Raping of Mother Gaia?
Okay, for those who are in South Africa, you can order. Please send a WhatsApp to my PA, which is on 064 976 4522. I'll repeat it, 064 976 4522. The book is also uploaded on Amazon. You can find it there. It will soon be in various bookshops, but just not as yet. And also on my website, which maybe we'll share it later, because they're still building a page.
Do you have any Instagram platforms?
I'm more active on TikTok.
Okay, what's your TikTok handle?
Dr Amelia, Dr Amelia _ spiritual healer. And then I'm also on Instagram as Dr. Amelia and on Facebook as Dr. Amelia.
Wow, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is a really emotional but necessary book where, we also as humans just need to look back at ourselves and our impact on what we supposed to be nurturing the most, what we think we should get the most from, which is the earth, and we're impacting it in a way that we don't want to be impacted in our lives. So we really appreciate your time. It's been a while since we had you here, and you came with a new lease and a new book. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate the time you gave me.